All right. It's Monday. It's the 10th. Me mam's birthday. For anyone who gives a shit. She turned something in her 60s, maybe? Early 70s? Hang on, let me think. 38. 40, 34, sorry. Yeah, 70 something. Early 70s. I could be wrong, though. I'm not very good at keeping up with my parents' age because I know what age Dad was when we were around, but I don't know what age Mum was. Anywho, had a bunch of really weird dreams last night that were related to imposter syndrome at work and money situations and worrying about placing for school, which I'm not doing at the moment. At the moment, I'm working on a human resources certification, so I can essentially so I can roll into my boss's position when it's time for him to retire. And I haven't really figured out what the dreams are about because when I wake up, like right after when I finished smoking, it was easy to remember what the dreams were because they stayed with me longer. Whereas now when I wake up, my brain's working properly and the dreams that I have don't stick with me as long. And I find when I start to think about them, they just vanish. They just bugger right off. And it's frustrating. Because there's value in there somewhere. It can tell you things that you're stressing about. But anyway. Haven't really had an opportunity today to really reflect on things. I had plans to do some more reading than I had done in the past week, but got caught up with work, and then had a couple of phone calls with some people which lasted a bit longer than I expected, so ended up not getting as much done on that front. So maybe we'll look at doing some more reading tonight. I might even switch from I've stopped writing in the evenings. I'm still writing in the mornings. I'm still getting that morning creativity burst. Although I haven't been doing as much writing in the mornings because I'm still waiting on my proofs to come back from my friend who's working on them. Poor bastard is doing 12-hour days at work at the moment, so I've been giving him a bunch of leeway because I'm not paying him to do the work. So I'm like, just do it when you can. But in the evenings, I haven't been doing any, and I think it might be time to start reading in the evenings again. Just doing getting some ideas in the old brain case, and then sleeping on it, and then seeing what comes out at the end of the next morning. Yeah. And then as far as the quittings are going, today was another one of those days where I thought a lot about the end. Next Monday is the last day of the 90-day away from things, the 90-day quits. And it'll actually be 104 days for marijuana by that point. But my marijuana quit's different to my video game quit. It's becoming more obvious to me that the video games, it wasn't, there were two problems that I can highlight. One was that there was too much in my workspace area, or my workspace. That's a redundancy, I guess. In my workspace, there were too many ways to get into gaming. There were too many ways to distract myself from doing work. And when I cleaned that up and I got rid of all the things that were distracting, I found that I was able to sit for longer and feel like when I was down here that I was, like if I'm on the couch with just the TV right now, it's not so bad. But when the console was down here and when I had Steam set up on my station, because I have my monitor here connects to my work laptop and my desktop. When I had Steam and Origin and all the gaming stuff and Blizzard and everything on my desktop, it was too easy to just switch over and start gaming right away. But by cleaning all that out and making my workspace more about work, I've been able to turn the workspace into a more of a workspace. And that was one thing. And then the other thing was the reasons that I was doing it. And a large part of the reason I was doing it was because I was smoking still and I was still using. And video games have always been more interesting to me when I'm high than watching TV or watching movies. I don't get as much out of those. I don't get as much out of those in general. But when I'm high, I typically tend to become more automatic with my behavior. And video games was one of those places that I would go and be automatic at. Whereas at the end of the 90 days, I feel like, I've talked about this a bunch of times, but going back to games that I played socially with my girl, and if the opportunity comes up to play co-op stuff with friends at their place, like I don't have to turn that stuff down anymore. I can go back and do those things and not feel bad about it. It's the doing it compulsively at home that's the problem. And that, I think, a big part of it, like I said, was tied to the environment, and then also tied to being high all the time. So yeah, so I feel pretty good about that. I'm actually kind of excited for next week. Date night next week will be probably the first night that we get back on LA Noire and go back and try to finish that game, and not try to finish it, but start from the beginning, and it'll be all on the TV upstairs because I don't have the the Xbox down here anymore, and my Xbox account has a bunch of games on it. You know, I had the Game Pass, and I had invested money into a lot of the games. I even had something like $60 worth of gold tokens on Call of Duty just sitting there doing nothing. And when I quit Call of Duty, when I stopped, because my internet was so bad that I couldn't play and run voice chat at the same time in the game. And really, I couldn't play in general. When it was peak hour here in the condo community, my internet was so bad that I couldn't play at peak hour. So I stopped playing it because of technical reasons as opposed to enjoy. Well, it was enjoyment, but mostly because I wasn't able to enjoy it because of the internet speed. And I left like $60 worth of game tokens on it, like with a, you know, that I bought one of the big packages that you could get where you got the game and you got the tokens and a bunch of other stuff. And that's all was just sitting there. Like, I told my mate about it, and he was like fucking frothing at the mouth because, you know, I'm not using it and I can't just cash it. I can't turn it back into cash. It's not like Bitcoins or whatever where you buy the currency and then you can turn it back into real money. So yeah, so that was a bummer. But I do still have the PlayStation, and you know, most of the games that I want to play are still on PlayStation. And I'm not looking to buy any new gaming consoles at the moment because I don't really. There's nothing coming out that I'm interested in. All of the games that I gave really much of a shit about. There's only two that I've really been thinking about, and that's the Ghosts of Tsushima, because I've been wanting to play that for a while, and LA Noire, and I can do those not compulsively. Let's say I can do those pretty chill. So yeah. What was neat though was that I found on the PlayStation, the app, the Peacock app, the NBC app, they actually have rugby on there. So now I've figured out that I can get on-demand full games of rugby, which is awesome because it's nice to be able to watch and just sort of keep up with the way that the game's being played. And I got to watch the Super 12 finals for the Australian and the New Zealand tournaments. I got to watch those. I didn't watch them live. I got up later than they aired at like 2 in the mornings here, so I set it up and then came down and watched them when I got up in the morning. That was fucking awesome. It's been a while since I've watched a sporting event where I've really cared about who won and who lost. And my team, where I was born and raised in New Zealand, is tied to a team called the Crusaders, and they tend to be the best team in the competition in New Zealand. And I'm more of an underdogs person. I typically tend to root for the underdog, but home ties me up pretty well when it comes to rugby and other sports, so I tend to be more of a Canterbury supporter than anything. And it was great to watch those games and watch how they played out. And as someone who's gotten involved in the sport again over here, it was nice. It was like a little bit of imagining watching it with my dad and my brother and having some beers. Except this time it was at 7 in the morning, and I wasn't drinking any beers. So yeah. Anyway, that's it for me. Keep it short. Yeah, talk to you tomorrow. Ka kite.